right, guys, welcome back. We're going to do a little something different today. Over the years, when it comes to fuel systems, going back around 2009, 10-ish era, when I was building Gunner, the hatchback, when it came to fuel systems, there wasn't a fuel pump big enough to support the fueling needs. Well, let me go back. There wasn't an in-tank fuel pump big enough. I think the biggest at that time was like a 255 liter per hour pump. So I always opted to go with the Aeromotive 1000 pumps, which are really awesome pumps. What I had to do, obviously, my other videos from the past, as you can see, is I sump my tanks and then run like a 10 AN feed to the pump and an 8 AN to the rails and a 6 AN return. But the issue I've had over the years with sump tanks is when you get to around, in my case, with these two cars, around a third of a tank or so, any kind of fuel slosh tends to run away from the pump momentarily. So it's not really a good thing. So I always run my cars with a full tank of gas pretty much, and I run them down to about half, and then I'll go top off. And quite frankly, just getting a little I just think there's room for improvement. So after doing some research, Holley, both Holley and Aeromotive offer very good options for our cars that will handle good power with regards to an in-tank fuel pump. Back at the bench over here, we're going to go ahead and put these fittings on the top of this fuel pump hanger. As you'll note, it might be hard to see, but it's one side is engraved with out, one side is engraved with return. Very, very straightforward. Again, just to cover this again, so these are the fittings that I use, and these are also good for the Aeromotive 340 Stealth in-tank pump hangers if you want to use those. I'm going to actually use that pump on not only Gunner but Quicksilver as well, the new up-and-coming car. So but these fittings will work for both. They have a 6 AN O-ring boss, and then depending on your fuel lines, get whatever outlet you need. Again, in my case, I'm going to use an 8 AN feed and a 6 AN return. These fittings in particular are swivels, so you can actually, once the boss is tightened down in the housing, you can swivel this any which way you need to align for however your lines are going to be. That's why I like these fittings from Frigola. I'm going to go ahead and mount these. Since they are O-ring boss, make sure you always put some lube on the O-ring before you tighten them down. And you don't have to crank down on them, guys. The O-ring is going to be what seals. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Then I'm going to mount the sock on. This particular pump, if you look at the bottom of it, well, okay, if you look at this sock, it has a divot that's off to the side. So it can only be clocked one way because there's a matching male divot in the bottom of the pump next to the inlet port. So this thing can only go on one way. Put your fittings on. Once this is all together here, we're going to put it in the tank, and then we're going to do some wiring. So I'm just draining whatever's left in the tank now. She probably has about maybe a gallon or two. I ran her pretty low. So we're going to drain all the fuel. I've already cracked loose the fitting at the inlet filter. So I'm just going to let this drain, and so this tank is pretty much completely dry. Alright guys, we're pretty much done. I'm going to put this fuel back in the 1 gallon jug, and we'll start lowering the tank. Alright everyone, tank's completely dry, and I've undone my return line, which is up there where it mates. Feed line is over there. I'm going to undo that right now. So this tank will be free to drop. Here's a better look at how I mount my fuel pumps. I've already taken the post filter off. I'm going to reuse that. But this is the upside down. Obviously the tank liner's upside down, but this is just a general idea. And what I do is I drill holes to match the mounting pad of the pump. And I bring like an Allen bolt. I think it's a quarter 20 bolt from the backside, and it's nice and it's smooth and rounded on the backside, so it doesn't mess with the tank. And then I just mount nylon lock washers on them, and that's how I secure the pump. But anyway, I'm going to remove this. This pump and filter is going to be going up for sale, so if anybody's interested. Really good pumps, like I said, just for the sump setup. I think I'm going to move to the in tank. So for any of you guys wanting an Aeromotive 1000, matter of fact, I'm going to have this one for sale, and I'm going to do the same thing to Gunner. She's got the early generation Paxton blue pump, which is identical. It's the same pump. It's made by Aeromotive, but it's just blue, and it has the Paxton logo on it. So I'm going to have that pump up for sale as well. So anyway, we're going to remove this and mount the bracket for the post filter in this area over here so it matches where it was generally, and we'll go from there. Here's the top of the tank as it came out. So this is what I normally run. It's just an in-tank pickup tube, and I cap off the 10 AN feed that would normally go to the pump, and I just run, you know, a 6 AN return. And that's what I, you know, disconnected from the car. Some of you might be asking, well, David, why don't you just use the 10 AN pickup tube and just run a hose from here down to the Aeromotive 1000 where you had? Because after all, this is submerged in fuel just like the normal stock pump hanger would be. The reason being that I'm not doing that is because on first startup, what's going to happen is that pump is going to turn on and it's going to be dry. So it's going to have to work a little bit to create a vacuum to pull fuel up from the bottom of the pickup tube all the way through the pump. And running a pump dry is not something you want to do over and over and over again. In theory, will it work? Yes. I mean, it would have saved me a lot of time, but the tank was going to have to come out anyway. So to avoid having to do this job multiple times, and if you guys don't know me, one of the things that, one of my pet peeves is doing jobs multiple times. I don't like doing this. I know it's an improvement, but I'm the type of guy where when I'm done with something, I'm done with it. Like, I want to do it right. I want to do it the first time, or, you know, just to do it right the first time. So this is kind of on me. Anyway, the tank was going to have to come out for me to run that, plus the dry start on the pump. I didn't want to do that because I would be sending my pump off to get rebuilt every so often, and it would just get to me and I'd be doing this anyway. So after the ranting, just like normal, guys, I'm going to tap this collar counterclockwise. It's going to release the ring, and this pickup tube will remove, and then we'll be ready to put the new pump hanger assembly in. Also, filler neck gaskets, whenever you drop the tank, even if you did it 3 days ago and you have to do it again, put a new grommet in. These things tear very easily, and you guys know me by now. What I do, factory Ford. I don't go with the aftermarket. They're kind of getting hard to find, so I stock up on them, but I have a few of them on my shelf. But I have a brand new Ford factory grommet that I'm going to use to go back with this, and so yeah, let's get to it. Sock is pressed on, fittings are on. We're going to go ahead and mount this in the pump. What I've done also, the brand new gasket and an O-ring, or excuse me, the lock ring, come with the pump. Always make sure to put some lube on that gasket, which I've already done and laid in the recessed groove in the top of the tank. Just helps it from dry rotting out. Let's go ahead and mount this. All right, for this assembly, you'll know you have the assembly in correctly when the Holley logo is facing the passenger side. Or actually, you can read it, but it'll be on this side. So that's how you'll know it's correct. All right, we're back at the bench. I'm gonna wire this pump in, but I want to make it so that it's removable or a quick disconnect. A couple years ago, I went to Summit and bought some of these generic 2-prong male and female connectors with the matching bullets and female spades. Believe that's the part number. No, that's just the gauge. I thought I wrote the part number down. But anyways, you can find these at Summit in singles up to, I think, 4s or 5s maybe. But I'm going to go ahead and splice this in. So we're going to cut somewhere around here and here. And make this whole pump assembly a quick disconnect. What I have here is the official 1988 Ford Mustang wiring and vacuum diagram. I buy these for all the cars. They're just good to have. They're old school. You can find this the wiring diagrams online from some CAD drawings and some others that you know, have drawn them through other programs such as Paint, so on and so forth. But I like to go through the official Ford documentation. Never take anything for granted. We always know that red is positive and black is ground. But again, you know, in my line of work and whatnot, you can't assume anything. So I'm just going to double check. Here's my fuel pump circuit. There's the fuel pump. Ford says that the ground is black. And the hot coming off the relay is a pink and a black. So what I have off the harness here is a black. It's going to be the ground. And pink with a black tracer is the energized 12 volt main power feed to the pump. So this was just a verification process. So now we're good to go. Let's wire this thing in. So just a basic overview of these connectors. These are your bullets right here, and they just slide on and you'll crimp them on. Just make sure to put the gasket with the bevel facing forward towards the connection, and that's what's going to seal it watertight. So I'm just going to crimp these on. I'm going to use this as my female on this side, and the males are going to be on the pump side. All right, guys, well, I have my connectors mounted and crimped on. I just cut the, you know, the original to length, as you've seen earlier, and then I did the same thing with the female side on the pump. So what you want to do with your connections is you want to ring these out to the main terminal. So here's my positive. You should hear a tone when I hit the positive wire in the main connector that goes into the chassis harness. There it is. So my positive is good from the bullet in the harness all the way till the end of the female. I'm going to go to the ground, and that should go to the ground bullet in the chassis harness, which it does. So I know my wiring's correct. I have the male, or excuse me, the positive and negative matched up to line up the you know, the connector on the chassis harness end. So we're good to go. The only thing I'm going to do now is put some convoluted tubing on this wiring, wrap it in tape to make it look pretty and to protect it, and we'll be good to go. All right, guys, so I'm going to make an extension from the output of the pump that's going to go to my post filter, which is going to be mounted pretty much in the same location where it was mounted on the A1000, which you guys remember is on the front of the tank liner on the driver's side. So what I did was I got a A1000 filter bracket, and I'm going to mount the bracket on the tank liner in pretty much the same area that it was when it was mounted on the A1000 pump, even though the A1000 is not going to be there. So I have some spare Teflon PTFE 8AN line, some extra fittings. So I'm going to go ahead and make this extension. Like I said, it's going to run down in front of the tank to the filter, and then we'll meet up with the existing output 8AN line that feeds the regulator and the fuel rails and everything else. All right, guys, everything's up. I don't know if you can see this, but there is my filter. And so the tank is up. I'm going to prime this, see if it leaks at all, and we'll fire her up. All right, guys, let's see what she does. And I'll focus on the fuel pressure gauge. Not sure if you can see that. The one to the right, we've got pressure. All right, let's see if we got any leaks. All right, guys, I just fired her up. No leaks. I'm gonna adjust the pressure just a little bit. My pressure went up, so I'm just gonna fine tune that. So we're good to go, guys. right, guys, success. Just got back from a maiden voyage, and she ran very, very well. No leaks. Holds pressure. I'm very, very pleased with this Holley pump. Obviously there's no more, the sump is still there, but just no lines going there. Guys, I highly recommend that that Holley pump. I believe it's their version of the Hellcat fuel pump. So you know, you can use the Hellcat fuel pump by itself, buy the hanger by itself, but I'll just buy the whole assembly. It just makes things a lot easier. But yeah, guys, thanks for sticking around, and I think I'm pretty much done with fuel sumps. Thanks for watching.